My camera's broken, so I can't join you on video, but I'm hoping to have that fixed soon, so I can in the coming weeks. So today's hub call, we're going to have an overview of the hub itself, and then we're going to have an update on the food systems program. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the program and some of the things we've been up to. Nicole's going to speak specifically about cultivating success, and Abba, our project manager, is going to speak about the International Quinoa Research Symposium, and then we'll have time to share. So I want to welcome all of you to our hub call. Please introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know who you are, where you're located, and what you're up to. You can also use the chat box to be asking questions and sharing links and resources for the group. And I just want to thank all of you for rejoining us after a couple-week hiatus. We wanted to just take a couple weeks to regroup, and really excited about upcoming hub calls and topics that we can focus on. So again, thank you for joining us. So a little bit about the WSU Food Systems Hub. The purpose of the hub is to provide a space to connect regularly with both our WSU Food Systems team members and external partners, to collect and update COVID-19 resources, to support the Washington food system, to do our dynamic needs assessment tool, which we are going to take a break from. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, and to provide time and space to share stories and receive support from one another. So just a reminder to visit our calendar of events page. So you can find this located on our website at foodsystems.wsu.edu, and it's updated with current information. And then the NAT, so we've had this going now since March. I'm going to be doing some analysis of the results and reporting that back out to the group. I know that there's a couple regions that wanted to use it more locally, and I'm happy to continue to support those efforts. So, but we are going to stop forcing you to listen to us talk about taking this survey for the time being, look at the information that we've gathered, be able to understand how it's useful and what we can do in the future moving forward to collect information. So I want to thank all of you who've been using it. We had reporting from 31 counties. We had several tribes reporting, a lot of really amazing information and collaboration. So again, thank you to all of you who participated in that, and look forward not only to some reports about it, but also some updated tools that we'll be looking to use in the future. So a little bit about the Washington State Food Systems Program, and I'm going to do a slightly deeper dive than I usually do on these calls, just to bring everyone up to date on the program. And so the program itself is about 3 years old. And I guess you could say it really sort of started with the hire of Nicole Witham, and that was in February of 2017. She was the first employee hired on with Doug Collins as the interim leader to really transition what was the Small Farms Program into the Food Systems Program. And we seek to work with communities throughout the state to foster viable farm businesses, optimize sustainable natural resource stewardship, and to promote scaled processing and distribution, always in the pursuit of access to healthy food for all. And a little bit about our structure. So we are a program of Washington State University, and within Washington State University, we are located within the College of Agriculture, Human, and Natural Resource Sciences. So as we call it, Connors. And within Connors itself, we are considered a program of extension. So we have 3 deans in Connors. We have our primary dean, and then we have 3 associate deans. And so we report to Associate Dean Vicki McCracken. She's been able to attend some of our calls, and she just came on board full-time June 1st. So I started with the program in November, almost 3 years ago. And so you can see there's been quite a bit of just in terms of the program coming together, and then having some leadership within the college as well recently. It's been really exciting for us. We also are so thankful to our steering committee members. So the Food Systems Program, like I said, we're part of Extension, and we have steering committee members from all of the units across Extension. So I just want to give a shout out to all of our steering committee members. We have Nils Johnson, who's located out in Stevens County. You've heard quite a bit from Nils on these calls and with some of the work that we've done. Marcy Ostrom, who was our fearless leader for so many years with the small farms team and provides exceptional support to the steering committee, especially around the immigrant farming program, as well as the work she's doing right now on diversity, equity, and inclusion with our study circles through WSU. Hannah Browse, who's the county director for both Klickitat and Skamania counties. You've heard from Hannah quite a bit on these calls. She's a trained agricultural educator. She has a lot of background in livestock and just really does so much. All of these steering committee members do so much across the food system in general. We're so happy to have them on the committee. Lynn Carpenter-Box, who's an academic professor with crop and soil sciences in Pullman. She just wrapped up a big study on composting livestock, which it would be great to have her present on one of our upcoming hub calls. Doug Collins, who's located in Puyallup, he's a soil scientist and is our statewide extension specialist for small farms for soil. Lizanne Powers-Hammond, who's located in Franklin-Benton counties. She's our last food preservation specialist faculty in the state, and really, really excited to have her on our steering committee with youth and families. You can see here, these are the units. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that, but A&R is Ag and Natural Resources, CED is Community and Economic Development, and then Y and F is our youth and families. Jen Moss, who's our statewide SNAP Ed coordinator lead. She's located in King County. She came on our steering committee in the last year or so. Pat Muntz, who's been here from the beginning with all of the work that's happened to transition the program from small farms into the food systems program. She's an incredible educator out in Spokane. Diane Smith, who's located in Skagit and Whatcom County. She's with the Youth and Families Unit. She's done incredible work and continues to do incredible work across that region, looking at food access specifically for families through several different programs, as well as waste reduction and so forth. We need to get Diane on here to just give an overview. We could probably dedicate a month of hub meetings just to her programs. And then Kate Smith, who you've also heard from. She's with our Skagit office and is our statewide Latino outreach specialist and is an incredible educator. And you've probably seen her at TILF conferences and helping with our farm walks. And she's just incredible and does so much work. So just a big shout out and to all of our past steering committee members as well. So the team itself is really the jewel in the crown of the food systems program. So we have team members, more than 80 now, and they really span across not only Connors, the College of Agriculture that I mentioned, but the university as well as the state. So when we transitioned from the small farms team to the food systems team, we had about 40, 45 team members, and we've really worked to expand our membership to areas across the state where we didn't have strong geographic representation, as well as strong organizational and cultural representation. So we still have a lot of gaps in our team. And I think these hub calls have also really made us realize that maybe some of the ways that we invite participants to be on the team may not be as inviting or accessible as things like our hub calls and ways that we connect across this food systems work. So for those of you who are on this call that may not be a formal part of the team, but want to be or just like to participate on the periphery like this, we're really excited to have you participating in this work as well. And if you are more interested in becoming a formal team member, you can visit our website. We have the roles and responsibilities and application there as well. And so team members are comprised of both WSU faculty and staff, as well as individuals from organizations from across the state. And we're just thrilled to have the work, to see the work that everyone is doing across the state to help convene that work, to provide space to network, to do grant development together, program development, and support one another through this team. So the team itself, like I said, we have a strong presence throughout most of the state. We collaborate on initiatives that promote research, implement change, and provide educational opportunities. And I mentioned earlier that we transitioned from the small farms team into the food systems program. And throughout that process, we had several different working groups and task force that came together to help guide the university in terms of developing this program. And so many of the things that were part of the small farms program have remained within the food systems program. But we've also added specific focus areas based on the work that was done in these working groups. And so we used to be very focused on sustainable farming practices, not to say that we weren't focused on other aspects of the food system, but really transitioning from a fairly siloed approach on supporting sustainable small farms in Washington to looking at how we can be more holistic and instill that primary approach of supporting small sustainable farms in Washington. So looking at equitable access, energy and waste reduction, processing and distribution, policy and regulation, economic benefits, and farmland and resource conservation. And obviously, as a small office crew, there's 4 of us in the main office. We can't necessarily provide expertise in all of these areas, but we definitely try as hard as we can to be connected with leaders and stakeholders across these realms of the food system. And then we do often participate in specific work that is related to these focus areas. So a little bit just to remind you all about small farms, and we are going to be updating the 2015 Washington Small Farms Profile that was developed by Marcy Ostrom and Colleen Donovan. We're in the process of doing that now, so we'll have some new numbers soon, but just to kind of give you the lay of the land in terms of Washington State and what is a small farm. So a small farm has a gross income of $250,000 a year or less. About 90% of Washington farms are considered small. And of those, the majority are on 180 acres or less. And small farms comprise almost 50%, a little less than 50% of Washington farmland. So we know that they're a huge contributor to our economy. And throughout the last 6 months, we've even seen we've seen more demonstrative appreciation for our local and regional food systems across the agricultural sectors. So it's exciting to see how important others are starting to understand small farms are to our state economy. So I'm going to talk briefly about farm walks, and then I'm going to turn it over to Nicole Witham, and she's going to talk specifically about cultivating success. Farm Walks is one of our programs that we did hold over from the small farms team. This was a collaborative effort that was developed in partnership with Tilth Alliance many years ago, almost 20 years ago. And so it's really exciting that we're still producing farm walks. We've just started production on the 2020 farm walks, which is odd. In some ways, we'd be halfway through the season and trying to wrap up in a normal year. But with COVID, we've really had to switch gears ourselves and come up with new ways to produce content. So these are going to be produced as podcasts this year. We've started some of that production already. Again, in collaboration with Tilth. And these are farmer-to-farmer education events that are typically hosted by organic, sustainable, and innovative farm and food businesses. And this is really one of the entry points that we see into new and beginning farming and just the food system in general. So these are open to anyone who wants to attend. And obviously being virtual now, they'll be even more accessible in some ways. And what's great about farm walks is it gives practitioners, experienced practitioners, an opportunity to look at an innovative production system or maybe some new practices that they might want to implement. But it also gives folks who maybe are thinking about farming or in some other aspect of the food system an opportunity to also go to a working farm and be able to learn directly from the producer. So these are producer-led events or farmer-to-farmer events. And if we can, we'd like people who attend our Farm Walk series to eventually take one of our Cultivating Success classes as well. So these are some of the farm walks that we had last year. And I'm going to turn it over to Nicole and let her talk about Cultivating Success.
Thanks, Laura. And I'll add just a little bit of information also about farm walks and the fact that we're pivoting to a podcast this year. We are actually going through all of our interviews right now, and each podcast will be around 60 minutes. It will still be very focused on the farmer to farmer educational aspects of holding up and learning from farmers. And then we'll also be interviewing resource specialists about the certain topics. So we aim to have 8 episodes that will be airing beginning in November, and we'll be kind of rolling out throughout the winter, fall, winter season. So we're really excited about it. We're kind of dreaming about the opportunities of continuing to do something like a podcast, even when we do get the opportunity to get back out in person on the farm as well. So we think that it will be a much more accessible opportunity for a lot of folks who can pop in their earbuds and listen to something while they're still working. And it will still also include educational resources like our booklets that we've created in the past, and evaluations that we always ask people to do. So all of that will be built into our new Farm Walks website, which will also be launching very shortly. So let me dive in now to another program that the Small Farms program really birthed, so to speak, and has continued on. I'm just going to give mostly some information about an up and coming class that is available for folks to take this fall. And let me see here, make sure. So Cultivating Success was something that is an educational program that, and a curricula basically, that was founded close to 20 years ago, or almost exactly 20 years ago now. We celebrated the 20th anniversary of one of the first small farms conferences last year. So we're running into the 20th anniversary of Cultivating Success. And so this was a curricula that was developed by WSU Extension and University of Idaho Extension, with a partner, a nonprofit partner known as Roll Roots, which operates in mainly in the northern Idaho area at this point. The goal of the curricula was to really reach those that were seeking information and resources about starting or managing small farm operations that were not going to go through a regular degree program, for instance. And so these courses are fully operated and ran in an extension-based environment, meaning that they are often taught and facilitated by our awesome coordinators throughout the state. And they specifically aim to reach that small farms demographic that Laura talked about earlier. So that's another really important aspect of this work, is continuing to get resources and information into the hands of those that really are a huge demographic and constituency of our farmers in the state. So the course that is coming up is our whole farm planning course. It used to also be known as the Sustainable Small Farming and Ranching course. So you may also see it listed with that nomenclature. And the course has always revolved around creating a whole farm plan or a whole farm vision for yourself, which is really a living and breathing plan that you can continue to alter and update. As you see here, it's a 12-week course, so it really is fairly in-depth. And at the same time, it's that 101 base level. It's going to give you a little information and a taste of all the aspects that you should be considering and thinking about if you're either planning on starting a farm, planning on buying land, you've retired recently and maybe are looking to scale up something that was once your hobby. Whatever, maybe you've already been farming and managing a farm business, but you want to kind of get some more tools in your toolbox, so to speak, to manage things better and to really have an understanding of what your needs are and what your resources are. So this class will walk you through that. And we're really excited. This year in particular, we were able to work with partners at the Washington Department of Veteran Affairs, or Washington State Department of Veteran Affairs, and the Veteran Farmer Coalition, who brought us in as a VA farm grant participant. And so with those extra funds, we've also been able to kind of scale up our offerings and provide some more resources to veterans. So one of the things that didn't necessarily specifically get funded by that grant, but because of the added resources, we were able to really, and because due to COVID, quite frankly, we were needing to do something a little different and more creative and bring things online. And so we are creating a statewide collective cohort, which is also going to include, for the first time, a Spanish speaking cohort. Any Spanish speaker throughout the state that is interested in joining the class would join in and have a translated lecture for the first portion, and then would go into a breakout room. And also, the other really important factor with this is the fact that we're going to be able to offer military veterans scholarships. So throughout the state, if you're a military veteran and you're interested in farming, then we highly encourage you to check out this course. I also wanted to show everyone just how many counties are going to be participating in this. And so again, as I was saying, we're going to have 15 counties and 2 reservations that will be hosting the course. They're listed here on the screen if you can see. And this includes the Colville Reservation, Clallam County, Clark County, Grace, Harbor County, Jefferson, Kitsap, Mason, Okanagan, San Juan, Skagit, Snohomish, the Español Spanish-speaking cohort, of course, the Spokane, Thurston County, Waukegan County, and actually just recently we added Klickitat and Skamania County to this list as well as the Kalispell Tribal Reservation. So, if you're
Nicole, I don't know if I'm the only one, but your voice, yeah, it sounds like your mic just got messed up. Let's see. Can we hear you now? We can't hear you now at all.
How about now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, I think my Bluetooth headbuds just crapped out. Apologies.
Amazing. You sounded like a robot.
Yeah.
I was like, so if you are near any of those counties, if you are in or near any of those counties and you're interested in joining this class, I will drop a link in the chat here for everyone to go to. We are in the midst of considering pushing back the start date. The start date for the course was supposed to be September 22nd. And with kind of so many things happening in all of our worlds right now, including children going back to school, fires, COVID, you name it, we have just kind of really taken stock of where everyone is and decided are looking into potentially pushing back the start date for that course, which would then start in November. Either way, it's going to be out there. It's launching. If you're interested, it's a fantastic course. It's actually a course I took way back when in Mount Vernon, when it was being taught by, who is it? Sarita from Viva Farms and Chris, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his last name. Someone help me out. Whatcom County, Chris.
Elder.
Chris
Elder. I was going to say Iberly, and I'm like, no, brain, not Iberly.
Nope,
Chris
other one.
So this is a fantastic course. It's great for anywhere you're at. And we highly encourage you to check it out. We also ask that if you see the Facebook events or any of our emails going around and you have the means to please share it. There will probably be a lot more chatter and information coming out just next week, actually, about this. So thank you, everybody. And there's a couple on the phone or on the line that are instructors or participants. So if there's anyone that would like to add anything that's hosting their class, please feel free to chime in.
Well, the beauty of this course is going to be that we'll have the first hour or so is going to be statewide, and then we're breaking out into regional groups so that we can address the particulars of a region like, I'm Spokane, Northeast Washington. We can talk about, how to adapt to our dry, hot, cold seasons. And then also some idiosyncrasies in our markets that we have here.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I think I'm really excited as well, just like you said, to be able to focus in on some of those regional and local networks and cohort building, even while it's being deployed statewide. Thank you so much, Nicole. That was fabulous. And we're going to move on now to talk about some of our food systems innovation events. So as the small farms team evolved into the food systems program, there was already some existing work happening around the state looking at supporting regional economies across the food system. And this was really grounded in the work that I was already doing with Cascadia Grains Conference in collaboration with several of the WSU Food Systems team members, both internal and external to WSU. And the focus on connecting, learning, and growing really came out of the work that we were doing to connect folks across the value chain for grains in the Pacific Northwest. So we were really focused on Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Northern California, and Southern BC, pretty much the entire part of the country that's on fire right now. So that has really been the focus, our stakeholder group within Cascadia Grains. And the folks that participate in these programs are often processors, focused on technology and innovation, legal frameworks, distribution systems, branding and marketing, consumer education, education and research, as well as financial models. And this is some of the work that we've done within this umbrella of the food systems innovation events. And this is really led by Abba Kaiser in our office. And she's going to talk more specifically about quinoa in just a couple minutes. That you can see here, so Cascadia Grains, we're going to be moving into our 9th year of the Cascadia Grains Conference. We haven't quite figured out what we're going to be doing yet. It's going to be virtual, and we're pulling all of that together right now. So look forward to some big announcements regarding Cascadia Grains. But this is an event that we've really been able to expand beyond just the conference with other opportunities to connect throughout the year, including regional calls that are facilitated by ABBA that now include many grain experts, regional grain experts from across the country. We also started the WA Meetup brand last year in collaboration with the WSDA, and we were able to have a summit about a year ago in Seattle. And we continue this work with the WSDA, looking at ways that we can really help support the niche meat sector within Washington. And this is work that's led by both Nicole and Abba in the office. And before I turn it over to quinoa, I wanted to just mention that we're also finalizing the details for a Radicchio project. So we're looking at expanding this regional value chain work into winter vegetable markets as well. And so we're really excited about partnering with the Culinary Breeding Network to continue to support the Sagra de Radicchio and Chicory Week that they have launched, and really build that out to create more opportunity for not only international collaboration with Radicchio growers in Italy, but also market development for Radicchio, in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm going to turn it over now to Abba and let her talk specifically about the Quinoa Symposium.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Just going to optimize my screen share here. You guys hear the music? I'm not able to see the chat, so maybe if somebody can just give me a thumbs up. Oh yeah, I see some dancing. Okay, we're good. So welcome everybody. As Laura said, my name is Abba Kaiser. I know a lot of you, so just hello friends. I'm going to talk a little bit today about an event that we produced last month in collaboration with the WSU Systems Lab. You probably heard us talk a lot about it. Is it okay?
Bring it down more.
Is it good now?
More. A little bit lower.
Let's see. I'm gonna, I think I have to do it on the internet here.
There you go. Oh.
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
No, it's
now
just for ambiance, really.
It was. It's fantastic. But now we can
for ambiance.
hear you too. It's great.
Can you hear me now? It's good? Okay. Thank you. So this was music that we sourced from one of our keynote speakers, Laura Tambo. She is an agroagronomist down in Bolivia, and she before the symposium we tried to gather some music from folks, and this was one of the suggestions that we got. So we're going to be talking about the second International Quinoa Research Symposium. It was August 17th through 19th of this past month, and it was a 3-day event that ran from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. As Laura mentioned, this is a part of our food system innovation events. Our focus is on revitalizing regional economies, and in this case, really growing an international network of producers and researchers and scientists who all have a vested interest in quinoa as a worldwide staple crop. So this was a free online event. This is a picture here of Kevin Murphy, who's the director of the WSU Sustainable Seed Systems Lab, although he won't tell you he's the director. And one of his grad students, Leonardo Hinojosa, who is now working in the field in Amsterdam. So the objective of the IQRS, the International Quinoa Research Symposium, was to focus world attention on the role that quinoa plays in contributing to food security, human health and nutrition, sustainable production, and holistic use worldwide. And it was really an opportunity to network and engage on an international stage. It was originally going to be in person here in Fort Townsend, where I live. But obviously due to COVID that wasn't possible, so we pivoted in March to an online event, and it ended up creating this whole other initiative that was way more accessible in some ways. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But some of the program elements included a recorded field walk with the Organic Seed Alliance, an informative zine with the Quinoa Lab and the Culinary Breeding Network, an interactive poster session, and live discussion forums. We also had 26 pre-recorded sessions with leading experts in their field on a wide variety of topics, including agronomy, phenotyping, ancestral knowledge, and market uses. And, you know, we really tried to be cognizant of the fact that without the indigenous stewards of this grain, we would not be gathering in this way. With the help of Hilda Beatriz Manzano Chura and Fabiana Lee, we were able to produce this photo essay that really talks about the effects of COVID on some of the indigenous communities down in Peru. It's available in both Spanish and English on our website, which is quinoasymposium.com. And, you know, a big factor with COVID is that the lack of international news, or just, I guess, the focus on domestic news, but staying connected to these communities throughout this time has been really eye-opening. Many people in Bolivia are not able to leave their houses. They are on total lockdown, and they have to ask for permission from the government in order to leave their houses. And even at that, they can only leave for a few hours every week. So many crops are being forgotten and dying in the fields. And you're seeing a lot of fear of repercussions for leaving your house. So, you know, essential workers aren't really, it doesn't translate the same down in places like Bolivia, for example, and Peru. There's lots of quinoa that's that's going to waste in the fields. And this woman specifically, Hilda Beatriz, she was writing this essay about how it's brought her closer to her the indigenous ways of farming, because she's had to help out so much more with her on her farm, on her family's farm. So we hope you'll take a look at that. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the planning team members. This is a screenshot from our call. We met every week in order to make this event possible. And we had a lot of fun, and it was just a real joy with this team. Lab members of Kevin Murphy's Sustainable Seed Systems Lab. In addition to Francisco Fuentes, you can see him in the bottom there. He is the director of Quinoa Lab and was instrumental in helping us access and have authentic relationship with a lot of the South American farmers that needed help getting on Zoom and connectivity, and he was absolutely essential for making that process work. This is a little bit about our speakers. So we had 51 speakers and 35 poster participants in 26 sessions over the 3 days. And that was inclusive of the interactive sessions, the field walks, the poster session lightning talks, and the discussion forums. And on our website, we made this interactive map where you can see where all the speakers are from, which was a real trick to figure out what time would be the best for us to be able to broadcast this event live and have all the speakers tune in. Some of them woke up at 3 in in order to get on Zoom with us. So just want to do a big shout out to our friends in Saudi Arabia and China and Australia who were able to make that work. This is a little note about participation. So we made a goal of having 1,000 registrants, and we got really close to that. We had 939 people register from 52 countries. The largest contingencies came from the United States, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, and Ecuador. And you can see this is a slide that we used during the symposium, so it's translated into both English and Spanish. The entire program was bilingual, and we also had live interpretation as well. I know it's kind of hard to read, but here are all of the countries that were represented. I just love to see how many different colors are on this graph. And again, the biggest contingencies represented there as well. The folks who tuned in were mostly researchers and academics, and we were thrilled to see that farmers and producers were the third largest group represented. It's always a win for us with the food system innovation events. We want to make sure that we have some strong farmer participation. And here are just some stats of who came. Some of these have already kind of gone over, but I just want to call your attention to a big win for us, which is that over 50% of the folks who registered used the Spanish registration. So they registered in Spanish. We used Qualtrics in order to do that. And in terms of participant satisfaction, 96% of attendees felt that we met their needs for an online event, which included 87% of folks in reporting that we met their need for networking and participant interaction, which is the biggest question for an online event, is how do we supplement, or how do we make sure that that happens, since we can't just pass each other in the hallway or meet up for a beer afterwards. So that was a huge win for us. And another win was that 75% of attendees reported that they participated in all 3 days. So it was a really important community building experience. We saw many of the same people stick around for our networking sessions at the end of each day, and raise a glass with us at the end of the event. So here are some of our top rated sessions. We had 2 of the keynotes included in here, including worldwide renowned scientist Mark Tester, who sequenced the quinoa genome in Nature a few years ago. We also have a lot of the scientists from BYU, David Brenner, Jeff Mon and David Jarvis. And you can also see here Sergio Nunez, the ARCO of Indian Naturals, was also highly rated, along with David Brenner and Rick Jellin, and Leonardo Hinojosa and Malia Guillen. We asked folks why they attended this event, and most people said sharing their research with the global audience was their main reason for attending. So we not only had incredible speakers with worldwide expertise, but many of the people who were joining also had so much experience in the field and were excited to share and learn about the latest advances in quinoa and to really establish an international community with the authors that they had read. This is Sergio Nunez de Arco. He was he's been instrumental in creating and maintaining a seat at the table for Indigenous farmers in South America, given the globalizing context of the quinoa market. And he gave us this great quote. During 3 days, professors, students, marketers, food scientists, geneticists, agronomists, professors, family farmers, and agro-industrial growers shared the passion for quinoa. We really felt the enthusiasm and just the generosity of spirit that exists within this realm. This was a free online event thanks to an OREI grant and a BioAg grant, as well as the generous support of our sponsors, including Jaichi Quinoa Breeding, Ardent Mills, Quinoa Lab, Andean Naturals, Albosur, and Lundberg Family Farms. So a big shout out to all of our sponsors for their support. I wanted to get into a little bit about the technical aspects that we use, because I know that that's big on the minds of anybody who's producing an online event these days. So the main platform that we used was Zoom. We have a webinar license with the Food Systems Program. We were also broadcasting live to YouTube, but that was really just a broadcast. We weren't interacting with people on that platform. In hindsight, there is some duplicity there, and it might be worth considering since we did not have the chat function enabled on Zoom, only the Q&A function. Whether or not we could just have Zoom as a private window with the speakers and then broadcast live to the public on YouTube. There were some accessibility issues in terms of wanting to keep the event safe from Zoom bombing, and then how do you kind of navigate that given all these platforms. And it was a bit of a challenge to figure out. So I think in the future we would consider just broadcasting straight to YouTube. And keeping this other platform, Slack, as the main networking platform, which I'll talk about in a second. But it's a communications platform that anybody can join, and it was a way for us to create further engagement throughout the symposium and really engage with that networking piece. For the actual presentations, we used Google Slides, and we embedded the YouTube videos, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. And then we used Qualtrics for registration because we have access to it as WSU, and we really wanted to get a good snapshot of who was coming in. All the videos were recorded, and they are now available on the Sustainable Seed Systems Lab YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch the live feed from each day. We had 2 different session rooms, so there's room 1 and room 2. There's also all of the presentations are available except for the lightning talks, which were unpublished data, so we didn't want to put those out there. But I just wanted to give you guys a little quick peek at the Slack channel. This is the Quinoa Research Symposium Slack channel, this online networking tool. And you can see on the left-hand side there's different channels that we used. So this was an iterative process, and it changed depending on the needs. And on pests, they could say, all right, we're going to continue the conversation in Slack. We just made a channel for insects and pests. So please go there. We had job opportunities. We had this poster sessions channel, which I'll talk more about in a second. Quinoa recipes. And then one of the best decisions that we made was to create a quinoa selfies channel. And this was by far our most popular channel. And we got flooded with hundreds of pictures from people in their fields with their families from all over the world, which is now up on our website as well, that just shows everyone who is involved in the symposium and how they are connected with this plant in their everyday lives. So that was, I highly recommend any kind of crowdsourcing photos, if you can, if you're considering doing an online event. So that is the I'll go back to the presentation here. This is a little bit about how we structured the day. So you can see there's 2 rooms that were set up. In hindsight, we'd probably just do 1 room and do shorter days, because switching back and forth between rooms and finding the right Zoom links and getting people to where they needed to go was really cumbersome. So we would, in the future, probably simplify. But you can see that we had a tech support person. Then we also had, which, was pretty obvious, just kind of mic testing and handling any kind of tech questions from the audience. So we also then had a room facilitator, which was sort of the host of the room. If you think about like an open mic, they're kind of the open mic host. And then the session facilitator is kind of leading the charge for each session. So they have more information about each specific, more of a relationship built with the presenters. And then we also had the Spanish interpreters as well, who were there doing consecutive interpretation for us in each room. So there were a lot of moving pieces and a lot of people involved in each session. So just a big shout out to the team and the WSU School for Languages, Culture, and Race for being with us as we navigated and created this plane as we were flying it, so to speak. And I think that there are definitely things that we would change about this structure in the future, and I'd be happy to talk more about that with anybody who's interested. So a note about the Spanish translation, all of the videos were pre-recorded, and then the transcript was then translated into the other language, so either English or Spanish. We then played the pre-recorded videos with the captions, so there was no consecutive or simultaneous interpretation with the videos. There were just translated captions, and we, because of timing issues, decided that that was the path of least resistance. However, for live instructions and welcomes and Q&A, we did have a consecutive interpretation. So one person would say something in one language and it would be interpreted by our translators into the other, which made it so that everyone could hear all of the information in one room, and we did not have a simultaneous interpretation channel, which is an option on Zoom, but it's incredibly hard to find people who are interested in doing the simultaneous, and you definitely need a really strong team for that. So just a note about written content as well. We learned that having 2 separate versions of each document worked best for accessibility, so that people don't have to kind of search for their language within the document and pick out the information that they're interested in as well. This is our program website. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the program right now. Just want to make sure that people are still with me here. If you can give me a thumbs up, that would be great. And still hear me. If everybody's turned their video off, and that's totally fine.
You should turn the music down so much.
Okay, I'm gonna just turn it off.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I wasn't able to see the chat. Sorry, everybody. Okay. I'm getting blasted with this Quechua music. It's great. Well, I hope that you could still hear everything I was saying, but happy to meet with anybody who has questions. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the program right now. Poster session. We had so many different folks submit posters of up and coming research from around the world and submit videos. We had them submit 3-minute, what we called lightning talk videos, which we then strung together in one video and just played straight through. And it was really exciting and really nice to have a change of pace. I think that's a good tip for anybody doing an online event, that anytime you can kind of change up the vibe or the interaction or the pace of things or the quality of the video or the audio, it really helps keep people engaged. And I really enjoyed this poster session. We can't share any of the results with you at this point because it's all unpublished data, but just to note that Julianne Kellogg really took this on and really made it sing. So big thanks to her. Another aspect that we produced for the symposium was this Quinoa Zine made in collaboration with the lab and then the Quinoa Culinary Breeding Network as well with Lane Selman and Katie Gorley. So this is a PDF. It's available for free online on our website in both English and Spanish. You can see it's quinoasymposium.com/quinoazine. And you can take that home with you. And there's lots of botany and ancestral knowledge and history and many other recipes in that as well. This is our bilingual program. You can see the 3 days from 8 to 4. This is an example of what we showed during the event. And you can see that, we had the speaker and the facilitator pictured, and then we would go right into their video. So this was Dora Tambo's keynote on ancestral knowledge
vamos a dar el
and
paso
natural
a...
indicators. And so you can see it's in you can also change the subtitles. There is an auto translate function on YouTube, which I don't recommend, especially if you do have the funding to be able to get it professionally translated. And I can talk more about the translation issues for anybody who's interested in that kind of in that for their projects. And then we would have live Q&A. So we were really lucky to get 95% of speakers to be able to tune in live and answer questions. And again, the Q&A was translated into both Spanish and English. At the end of each day, we had a networking discussion with different formats and also different topic areas. So you can see here, Monday was about breeding and agronomy. Tuesday was about growing quinoa, and then Wednesday we ended with an indigenous seed sovereignty conversation with Dora Tambo. And then we, at the end, had a cheers. You can see some root beer pictured here, but whatever people had, it was 8 a.m. in some places. There, some folks were drinking mate, and it was a big cultural learning for us. In real life, in person, there are quinoa, international quinoa events that happen every year in different countries. Last year it was in last year it was in Chile. And I guess the goodbyes and the thank yous went on for about 5 hours. So we tried to just kind of take a page from their book and pay our respects. And I think our thank yous and our cheerses went on for about 2 hours at the end of the symposium. And we also did a review of all the quinoa selfies that had been posted in the Slack channel. So here are just some lessons learned about things that we would do differently. So building in more breaks intentionally for the speakers and for the staff as well. One mic, one voice, having 2 rooms, just having 1 room, shorter days, and ideally having the interpretation that was simultaneous so that there would be a different channel that folks could tune into for the Spanish channel if they needed it. And celebrate, people are really interested in any opportunity that they can to come together and to have a chance to raise a glass and be together and really say thank you. And this community in particular was incredibly generous and supportive and curious, and we really loved the chance to be able to be a part of that. Simplify, this is maybe just a note for myself, but to simplify everything and whether that's just going straight to YouTube instead of having Zoom and YouTube, or to have just one Zoom room. I think the biggest thing that we learned is the less clicks, the better, the less things that people have to navigate and figure out, the better. And another aspect of this was that we're in these unprecedented times, and it's really important to define what success looks like for your program and to define that early, because no one else is going to really tell you whether or not you've been successful or whether or not you've done a good job. And so I think for us, having some arbitrary goals of registration and really making sure that we gathered information about the accessibility and the engagement across the two languages was really important to us. And whether or not people felt like they made connections and had an important professional development opportunity. One of the other cultural things that we learned is that it's important for folks to have a certificate of participation in many countries. It helps them apply for jobs and apply for different schools. And so we were able to make a certificate of participation for this event that they can then use in their own development. So we thought that was an important lesson that we learned as well. And I'm just going to wrap up by saying that, we are here, we're doing a lot of different work. I know a lot of you are familiar with our programming and already know this, but we are available to collaborate if you have an event that you need help with, or you have any interesting projects that need support. Please consider collaborating with our team. We're interested in, grant opportunities and project funding and different private events. So please get in touch with us if you have an idea or even just need somebody to hash out some details with for your next online event or beyond. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because many of you are already our collaborators and in our cohort. So just want to appreciate you, but also put it out there that we're this soft money and would be excited to leverage our collective power for any projects that you have that are coming down the pike. And that's it. Thank you. Gracias. And just a big thank you also to the team, the food systems team and the Sustainable Food Systems Lab who really pulled through on this event and made it a success. We're interested in doing some collaboration with other colleges and other organizations that have done online agricultural events like this in order to do a sort of lessons learned webinar that would be available and promoted across the country because, nobody knows what's going to happen. But I think that, even just this experience for us has really proved that your community is as big as you want it to be. And in this new kind of globalized experience that we're having with COVID, it really has the opportunity to create a lot of different kinds of access that didn't exist before. And so just grateful to the opportunity that has come up through these challenging times and excited to see how we can continue to support and convene folks and really be able to share the knowledge that's out there and collect and convene these experts in their fields, which is really what we're all about, just creating that space for folks to come and share and report out and connect and learn from each other. So I think that's all for me. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them now. I'm sorry I wasn't able to see the chat during this screen share, and sorry if the video was the music was a little bit too loud, but feel free to reach out with any questions, or if you have interest with getting involved with the online event report back, you can also get in touch with me. You know where to find me.
Abba, thank you so much. And I'd love to just open it up now for questions or comments for both you and Nicole from those folks who are still on the call. I want to just say too, participating in the Quinoa Symposium, I know at some point during the first day, we had over 400 people participating simultaneously through these platforms. And I don't even think we would have gotten that many people in person. It was just one of those moments where we realized people had come together. So good job. It was really amazing to see something that I know was really nerve-wracking putting together because we hadn't done it before in that platform. So amazing work.
Hi, Abba, this is Gwen. I just wanted to say this is really great to see that it worked, how it worked, and from the tech perspective. I mean, as you know, TILF is putting together its conference and looking at, we're not doing it via Zoom, we're doing it via Hopin, which is an interactive, supposedly an interactive, a more interactive platform. We'll see. But I think Aaron or Terry or somebody from our team will likely want to give you a call to maybe follow up and ask a few questions about what you learned. Those lessons learned were great. Yeah, and then I also wanted to say that the TILF conference is November 9th and 10th, held virtually. Registration is open if you haven't seen that, and a draft of the program should be up by the end of next week. And Chris Newman from Sylvan Aqua Farms is one of the keynote speakers, and we're trying to confirm Kathleen Merrigan. So we'll see. But I think, Abba, going back to the Quinoa Symposium, I think, you know, if all goes well with the TILF conference, we'll have like 400 people too. So really learning from you would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's with a free online event, we anticipated maybe a third of folks showing up, and that's considered success. So, you know, the whole measures of success are completely changed now. But yeah, I'd be really excited to, you know, stay involved with you all, and also just see your lessons learned after this. And I know Cornell did a plant symposium that we really learned from, and so maybe there's an opportunity for us to collaborate and present out together.
That'd be great.
Yeah, but a quick comment. I think the best practices on the language translations was really informative, and it'd be awesome if you end up putting together some kind of guide or best practices on that. Then I'd be interested in hearing, because we ran through a lot of those same problems or lessons through one of our e-commerce programs, trying to offer it in Spanish and English, that was good to see.
Absolutely. Did you guys do pre-recorded videos?
We ended up doing it live, so then we had to figure out how to translate it after. So we ended up doing kind of a second session with live translation or live interpretation, and just had a separate channel. So some of the things we wish we had known before, but we're doing another round, which we're going to do more of that recorded content, and then having the live translations be more for Q&A type questions.
Yeah. You guys use the Spanish translation channel on Zoom?
We tried the transcript, generating a transcript. We didn't use the live translation, but the transcript seemed to be decent, but we still had to use it in conjunction with outside help. So we just gave it as a starting point for the translator to use.
Yep. Yeah. We just use the transcripts that were created by Zoom, basically, because we recorded all of our videos in Zoom as well. The pre-recorded videos, I just got the speaker on Zoom, wherever they were, and then we pressed record, and then that became the session video. And so we just had those transcripts, which turned out to be very poor source texts. And so really what we learned is that it's really important to have solid, correct, the correct names and titles of everything in the original language before you hand it off to the translator, because the translators ended up having to go back and edit the original text in order to even make sense of what they were translating. So yeah, I'd be curious to stay in touch and collaborate about, just best practices for that. And I felt like there has to be people who have done this before, but I just don't know who they are. And so we're just learning how to do this now. It kind of was shocking to me. And if anybody has any resources for that.
That was my follow-up question, is that even having the right resources for doing the translations ended up being kind of a challenge for us to do those types of translations, and some of the technical ones too.
Yeah. And, just even if we had maybe 10 different translators working on the videos, because it was such a tight timeline, and, if they saved it as a document versus a TXT file, it totally messed up the timestamps. And so we ended up creating a spreadsheet. Basically, Evan Crane from the WSU Sustainable Seed Systems Lab created an algorithm basically that made sure that all the timestamps were correct, and then we could have the translations. So that's, I think, one of the biggest takeaways is, translators are used to translating sentences and paragraphs, not individual lines of texts underneath numbers that are very important numbers that can't change, and which are the time codes. So creating a spreadsheet that they can just kind of look at the sentence and then enter it into the next column, and then we can take the values of that other column and just paste that as a transcript. It was wild. It was a wild process to try and figure out how to do this smoothly. And I'm sure somebody else knows more about it than I do. I'm like, there's got to be people who do this.
Abba, I'm glad you're saying this because TILF is looking to do something really similar, and maybe this is going to be a bigger process than we're planning. So again, we might follow up with you.
Definitely.
Okay.
It's huge. It's a huge body of work, and it really educated me on building that accessibility funding into your project, because it really doubles the workload, if not more, to try and make it accessible in another language.
Yeah, you said that it was like running 2 separate full programs rather than taking one program and just modifying it.
Absolutely. And in an ideal world, I would be a native Spanish speaker, and I would be able to, in hindsight, we should have hired a native Spanish speaker who does this work, who can, be on presenting that part of the program, because there were so many different little things that I needed approval on, and I would send it to members of our team who we ended up hiring to do that work. But, having 2 people who are in that project management role who can kind of focus on those 2 different projects, as you were saying, Laura.
Great questions. Other questions, feedback, anxiety about upcoming events? Well, thank you so much, Abba and Nicole. And I wanted to just finish up today by saying, coming back to Connect, Learn, and Grow, this has been what we've focused on over the last several years in terms of pulling people together across the food system. And I want to thank all of you for supporting the hub work that we've been doing, because we really were unsure of what we would be doing throughout COVID to convene and network and help support all of you across the state of Washington doing the incredible work that you do to support Washingtonians in the food system. So it's been really exciting to see not only the participation in our hub calls, but then the engagement that people have with these recordings beyond the Friday that we all were there live. And so we've had a lot of interest in our YouTube channel. So I just wanted to give a shout out again to everyone on the internal team, as well as everyone across the state who's been participating. And it's given us a chance to connect. And then I wanted to give a plug also for some of the work that I feel like really came out of COVID and connecting. I know Sarah's on the call. This brief just went live this week, and I have the website at the top of the page here, but this is the work that was done collaboratively, really with a powerful crew of UW researchers and myself, and a collaborator from Tacoma Community College. And these are some of the findings, and I hope to be able to present this with the University of Washington team on one of the future hub calls. But just in terms of thinking about how we've been connecting, learning, and growing throughout COVID, this has been just a really amazing experience to participate on this research team and look at how we can be addressing food security during COVID and really beyond. And just another really wonderful project that came out of the hub. I just want to thank Linda McLean and Organic Seed Alliance, as well as Valerie Segrist with the Native American Agricultural Fund. The Colville tribe really took this and ran with it. And now we're seeing a lot of interest across the state. Viva Farms, I know, Steve, you worked on this with them in some of the initial calls. So just something again that I guess, you know, a silver lining in everything that we've been working on throughout the last 6 months, whether it's been related to COVID, social justice, you know, forest fires and environmental degradation. Really, 2020 has left nothing unturned. And it's just been really wonderful to see us connect, learn, and grow still, not only through our formal programs, but through these calls. So I just wanted to thank all of you. We're gonna definitely ramp up with our partners over the next couple of weeks with our hub calls. If you have recommendations, please let us know. And we just can open it up for comments, open discussion, sharing. If anyone wants to tell us about something that's coming up, I know that Steve sent in the link, the concert that's coming up, or the event that's coming up soon in collaboration with the Washington Land Trust and Viva Farms. Do you want to say a little about that, Steve?
Yeah, sure. And I wasn't able to post it in the link. I did send it because it's an email and it's in Instagram, and I'm not quite sure how to create that link to the event, but let me just do it orally here. So as you know, with COVID, you know, well, certainly for Viva Farms, we haven't been able to do our usual fundraisers in person, our big farm to pint event in April, and then our on the farm banquet. All of that's out, but we've partnered with PCC Farmland Trust, who have now morphed and evolved and are launching their new rebranding as Washington Farmland Trust. So together we're hosting a live concert on September 30th, featuring Seattle artists, which includes Dave Matthews, not the whole Dave Matthews Band, but Dave Matthews performing from his studio, and 3 or 4 other really dynamic performers from Seattle. So that evening, 7 p.m. on the 30th of September, tickets are on sale now. They're only $10. And we hope to encourage people to attend and enjoy. And the money will go to the Farmland Trust and to Viva Farms to help keep our operations going. So if there's some way I can, well, I think if you Google Love the Land, you will find the links. Love the Land is the name of the event. And there's a lot of pathways to find that through social media right now. So thanks.
Thank you, Steve, so much. Any other announcements, anything people would like to share?
Kara, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to let folks know that OSA is having a virtual field tour this coming week, Monday through Friday. We're doing it just very brief at 10 a.m. each morning on Instagram Live. So if you can find us Instagram, we're just organic _seed _alliance is our Instagram handle. So if anybody's available at 10, that'd be great.
Excellent.
Kara, I just was scrolling and I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, it's happening this week.
I have a quick announcement too for Business Impact Northwest. Some of you may know we did a farm e-commerce pilot program a while back. We're doing another program starting up for King County farmers. So we have funding to support about 40 to 50 farmers getting an e-commerce platform set up. So I'll have more details on that soon, but I'll put my email if anyone wants to get advance notice, but I'll make sure people on this call are included when we have our intake and registration form.
That's excellent. And is there opportunity for non-English speaking farmers as well?
Yeah, I missed that. So this on this program, we're going to be offering it in Hmong, so particularly targeted at the Hmong like flower farmers in King County. So we'll have a separate coordinator to hopefully kind of lead that charge, but there'll be some learning process with the offering it in dual languages, but that's our plan currently. And then as far as other language we can try to handle that on a case-by-case basis. But officially, it's going to be English and Hmong.
Excellent, great.
There, I just want to put a little plug in. It's not registration isn't open yet, but you'll be hearing more about this from our team. Chatham University we're going to be co-producing this Grains and Revolution conference with them. It's a couple days before TILF, and it's all about celebrating and uplifting BIPOC voices in the grains community, especially BIPOC women, and it's just going to be a really exciting event that really on how systemic racism has shown up in the grain community throughout time, and how grains have been used as a tool of colonization, but can also be now this kind of redemptive, transformative area of the food system. And so we're really excited to be partnering with them on November 5th, and just stay tuned for more information about that.
Thanks, Abba. Okay, well, if we don't have any other announcements, if you do have anything, we'll have the chat box open still for a few minutes. It's great to be back. Happy to see all of you. It's the highlight of my week to be able to interact with awesome people working to support the Washington food system. And I just want to thank my team for pulling those presentations together to be able to speak with you all today about the work that they're doing, and just so thankful to have the opportunity not only to work with them, but all of you folks. So I hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Laura.
Likewise, it's been great. It's uplifting to see all you folks and be part of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.